school with here remembered about me was playing the piano over there at school assembly every week. So thank you again for the opportunity to talk to you. I'd like to also acknowledge the Derek and the Eora people as well and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. And I found it very interesting that in all the time I was at the school, I didn't know that Birrong was the Darug word for stars. And so Azra, of course, that was part of my research in coming here. I was fascinated to find that out. Okay, so I won't talk for too long, hopefully, take up too much of the assembly, but we have a bit of a slideshow for you. By the way, my surname when I was here was pronounced Chernyayev, and I was probably one of the only people in the school who didn't have an Anglo name, and so people just called me Irene or Irena. So that was what the school looked like. No beautiful garden out the front. When I first arrived here with my mother, it was my very first assembly in this hall, 1960. Well, in 1968 was when I left, so 64. I'm quite different to the girl that appeared in this photograph, which is the person up the top. I was the only one who wasn't smiling, but I was very, very happy to be here, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you just a little short background to my story. You know that my parents were refugees when they came here, and really, Birrong Girls High School really was my other home. We heard about the conditions for women in the workplace. My mother brought me up on her own from when I was 11, which was the age I started here in high school. And in those days, women had different wage system to males. My mother earned $20 a week, which was $8 below the female minimum wage. In the factory where she worked as clothing machinist, the only male employee earned $40 a week. And his job was to sweep up the floor, and he earned twice as much money. Today, I looked it up, the average wage for a factory worker is $20 an hour. So I just thought, okay, well, what you heard from the principal just then about International Women's Day and conditions for women, things have improved. They certainly have improved. There's no more male and female wage anymore. It's not just one wage. But women, on average, don't earn as much, and we have to do something about that. When my mother left Berlin, which is where she came from, this is what Berlin looked like in 1945. 170,000 people, known as displaced persons then, as refugees, came from Europe to Australia. And I thought it was a bit sad that there are many cities around the world that still look like this. My mother and father built a house in Birrong in 99 Auburn Road, Birrong. And my father built it himself. The house is still there if you drive past. Looks a little bit different today, doesn't it? When I came here, Miss Worcester, whose photograph is in your foyer out there, was the school principal, but it was her last year as school principal. And she was famous for coming to school with her croaky dog. And she's holding the dog on her lap. Sadly, the dog passed on through old age the year that she retired. So my fondest memory of this stage is when Miss Worcester was given a little corgi puppy on her retirement in a basket. And I think the whole school cried, Miss Worcester cried, and yeah, it's right there. Our next principal was Miss Moore, and she was a pretty firm sort of principal. She used to come around and measure the height of our socks. They couldn't be more than 15 centimetres. she was really into the length of socks. But she was also a very compassionate woman. She pulled me into her office to meet me, and it was because I was one of the few girls here who was being brought up by a single parent, and she was concerned for me, and I've always remembered that kindness. So my real family, these were my members, these were my brothers and sisters. I had no brothers and sisters, by the way, no aunties and uncles, no grandparents, never met any relatives at all, never knew anyone, just my mum and I. So these were my family, my fellow students. And with the exception of one in that photograph, we're all going to meet up again on Saturday. I did manage to get into the school swimming team, and I'll just go back. Don't know if you can see, but the third one from this side, I've still got short socks. We were allowed to have long socks for sport. Our sports uniform looked like this, and we had these dreadful maroon bloomers that you can see some prints, and a belt made out of cord. So it's a bit of a fashion show, this. The only ones who could wear shorts were the girls who were in the men's basketball team. It didn't matter what length your socks were if you were in the hockey team or in the gymnastics team. And this was our gymnasium. This is where we used to do gymnastics. This started off as a home science school. For the first 2 years, this was known as Birrong Girls High School from 57 to 59. And so we had to wear these white tunics over our uniforms to do home science. And of course today you have food technology, and I can tell you which class I'd rather be in. Those cakes look amazing. We also studied Earth and space, although it wasn't called Earth and space. I think it's fascinating, a class, a subject, a study called Earth and space. But I kind of wonder whatever happened to the skeleton. We just called it science in those days. Does anyone know? Boris. Thank you. And we didn't do research with Google. We had a once-a-week class in the library, and so we also had in Birrong the bookmobile, which used to come once a week and park outside the Birrong shops, and we'd go and get our fiction reading from the bookmobile. And that went on for into the 70s, I think someone was. And this is how we used to socialise. Again, the fashions from 50 years ago. The skirts were getting a lot shorter. So thank you. And that's me and then and me now. And what I'd like to leave you with is a thought of how will your friends remember you in 50 years? What will they remember about you?